The Connection Show. Inspiring hope, health, healing, connecting the dots of your story and transforming your life. Sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds.
We're so glad that you're joining us today for the Connection Show. We have an amazing guest you don't want to miss. His name is Craig Smith from Utah, and you're going to just love his story, and the product that he represents as well will just inspire you. So join us today with Craig Smith. Before we begin, though, we'd love to have one word about an upcoming Brave Heart Workshops event. It's going to be to the beautiful island of Aruba, February 5th through the 11th of 2023. I have 3 spots left in a 5-bedroom, 5-bath villa on a private beach with its own private swimming pool. You don't want to miss this. I've reduced the price substantially, so I believe it's extraordinarily affordable. So you can come by yourself or as a couple or a best friend, whichever you want to come with. But we have 3 bedrooms left. So listen in, and I hope you'll register right away and join me in Aruba. Join us for the Hope, Health, and Healing Aruba Connections Getaway for men and women. February 5th through the 11th, 2023. Are you overworked? Stressed out? Feeling exhausted? Is it time to spoil yourself? Breathe in life and relax at private villas in Aruba for 6 nights and 7 days. Renew your mind and body. Discover greater self-awareness. Join in connection, wellness, stillness, movement, enhance inner peace. Experience amazing beaches. Enjoy snorkeling, area attractions, shopping till you drop. Dine at fabulous beachfront restaurants. Imagine releasing anxiety, reconnect with yourself, restore your soul, bring your friends. Enjoy fresh and savory cooked meals, lasting memories. Join us now. Register today. Book your flight and getaway to Aruba, February 5th through the 11th, 2023. Register by going to braveheartworkshops.com. Pack now and see you on the island of Aruba. The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing, sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Craig Smith. Welcome to the show, Craig.
How you doing? Great to be with you, Jill.
Well, wonderful. Where are you joining us from today?
Nice and cold, just probably like you, Utah. Coming to you from Utah. Grew up originally in Colorado. Yeah.
Okay, so you're dealing with cold as well. Well, we want to just jump right in so we have plenty of time for you to share with the audience. So, Craig, if you don't mind, would you take us back on a journey to little Craig growing up and share with us what life was like for you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and bring us forward to where you are today?
Yeah, no doubt. You know, one of my earliest memories and fun memories with my parents growing up at a little town home. You know, they had a little pool, and all the moms and dads, you know, would congregate once in a while, and I loved the water. Apparently, I really loved the water, and I would run out and just jump in, and of course that that wasn't too exciting for my parents that I was that comfortable with the water. And my dad tells me on one Sunday morning, he's all dressed for church, and 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 they open the door and they don't have eyes on me for a minute, and I am gone. I'm out the door. Somehow I had a straight shot to the pool, jumped in, and Dad goes rushing in and jumps in his church clothes, in his Sunday best, to rescue his son. And so after that experience, they said that they put a little life vest on me every day to get me ready. So loving the water.
How old were you when you did that? Do you recall your age?
Yeah, they told me between 2 and 3 that I was running out there and doing that.
I would have immediately signed you up at the YMCA for classes until you could swim like a fish, so that if you ran out there, at least you knew how to save your life.
No kidding. It's funny. I later did join the swim team when I was in high school, and had a lot of fun.
Okay, so take us then. So you've got this life jacket on now, and you're protected from the water.
Yeah, exactly. Now I've got an airbag. You never know.
So what else was life like for you then growing up?
Yeah, growing up, maybe a kind of a typical childhood. I was one of those kids. I loved being outside. We didn't have a lot of camping gear. It was kind of this older stuff, but man, we would set the tent up in the backyard anytime. We really didn't have fences. We didn't have a fence around my yard. And I remember going with my friends, and we'd go out at night, and our neighbors always said we could pick raspberries and rhubarb right from their garden. And, it was a pretty good life, growing up. There were always, the crazy things going on with life. I had a mom and dad that loved each other, gratefully, and that's maybe kind of rare today. I had one brother, had a dog, and just kind of cruised around. But, there was one story, I'll tell you, where I really thought I was in trouble. We had gone up to visit a friend's cabin, and in this area, and there was a raging river, a little bridge near this area. And I'll tell you, going down, being curious as I am, went down by the river, and it had all these rocks, but some of them were flat, kind of long, flat rocks. And I remember slipping and just spread eagle on this rock, slowly slipping down to the river below. And honestly, at 6 and 7 years old, it made an impression. And I thought I was done. I thought, oh, here I go. I hit that river. I'm gone. I'll be down that river. And I'm trying to yell for help. Luckily, my little brother, Eric, was nearby, and he sat right down kind of at the top of this rock, braced his feet, and he's 18 months younger than I am. So he's like 5.5. And he reaches down and says, "Take my hands, I'll save you." And I remember grabbing onto his hands, and then he just sat back. He was a pretty stout kid. He just sat back, and I just kind of went, slid up that rock, and was able to get a handhold. And, that was one of my earliest memories, about life, death, kind of brought a lot of thoughts about Jesus, kind of saying, "Take my hands, wow. I'll save you." So I've had a lot of time to think about that over my life.
And where did you live as a child growing up?
Yeah, this was in Colorado. Grew up in Colorado.
I mean, what part? What part?
Yeah, this near Boulder. The Flatirons did a lot of rappelling with my friends in the mountains there. But this was near a place called Estes Park, and there were some beautiful areas there. But that was a really, if you will, traumatic but exciting time of my life, being able to be an adventurer. But I was just so grateful that I was spared that day.
And what was spirituality like in your family growing up?
Yeah, spirituality. We grew up believing believing the stories of the Bible. You know what I mean? The Bible was definitely a staple in my home, and we believed in Jesus Christ. And I'll never forget, I was across the street by myself from our little home. There's a hill, and it had this stuff I called pipe grass. It was grass that you could disconnect, and then you could take the pieces and put them back together again. I haven't seen any around here in Utah, but I'll never forget, I was up there putting these little pieces of grass together just by myself. And I had the most profound thought that, that God wanted me to grow up and be like him. The thought was that this acorn doesn't become a giraffe. An acorn becomes the oak. And there's no shame from the oak that the acorn becomes like the oak. And it says, come follow me, right? Be therefore perfect, complete, whole. And these were the thoughts I had, that I could grow up, and I was meant to grow up to become like God, as an invitation from Christ. So I grew up in a very, if you will, spiritual family as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we had the Bible stories around us often.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So church was a regular thing in the family growing up then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was, it was part of our lives. It was kind of woven kind of through everything. It was just kind of there. It's like being a fish in water. And as a kid, you don't even know you're in the water, or fish. I don't even know if fish know they're in the water. They only know it when you take them out, right? Yeah. And then they really, I kind of think about that with life and spirituality, that, man, when we're in, man, we're just in, we're enjoying things. It's when life hits us sideways and we get pulled out, and there's some tragedy that all of a sudden it's like, wow, we need God now.
Yeah.
But it's when things are going well, maybe not.
Well, and Scripture says, in this world we will have trouble. And it's apparent. It says it in Scripture. So sometimes people think that when you become a Christian, everything in life is just peachy cream. And one of my favorite sayings, so I'd like to go on a little deeper if you're willing, and if you're not, that's okay, is there's a saying that says codependency in the looking good family. It looks good, it smells good, it appears to be good, but the Bible also says that many times we'll have 4 generations of sin, taking us back for 4 generations to our great-grandparents, our grandparents, our parents, and ourselves. So with that, even though you were raised in a strong, Christ-centered home, mm-hmm. and with loving parents, what generational wounds were in your family of origin?
There was one seed of divorce, but it didn't impact me because it was pre-me with my parents. Both had been divorced before they had gotten together. And, I'll tell you what, that was because for me, marriage was forever, right? In my world that I constructed as a kid, and the way I believed that it was, I was hoping to find that one sweetheart and just be with her forever, and gratefully I'm married now 31 years so far. So good. But I'll tell you what, I didn't find out about my parents' divorce till I was 14. We were rummaging through an old garage, and all of a sudden we come to this box and we open it up, and there's a picture of my mom as a young woman with some other guy. And that, I looked at my mom, and because they had never talked about it. And she says, well, Craig, I was married before. And he really didn't want to be a Christian. He didn't want to, he started drinking, and there were problems with her. And this was so foreign to me that this could have even existed. And so here I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden she turns to me and she goes, and your dad was married before too. And like you said, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that the wind doesn't blow and the rains fall on the just and the unjust, right? As the Lord has said. And you know what? At that moment, I just had a whole different idea of marriage, commitment, loyalty, and so on. And so
Well,
that
and if you pause there for a moment, because
yeah,
with generational wounds, and you said, but it didn't affect you. And so I want to stop
yeah,
there for just a moment,
sure,
because when there is pain within a family of origin, so your mom and your father both had loss and grief and abandonment and endings in their life. And so you don't just skirt through life with those emotions
right,
without having any of that passed on with certain things that come in your life. So there's times then that you might, your mother and father could have instances in their life where they could have floodings of, oh wow, I'm feeling abandonment, oh I'm feeling loss, or oh well, this marriage is stressful, because it takes two to make a marriage. You know that because you've been married 31 years.
yeah,
So
absolutely,
so your mom and your dad have had their own woundedness in
yeah.
those first marriages. So what about grandparents or great grandparents? Was there anything that is in
You know,
lineage there that you had with a divorce, adultery, abandonment, addictions, drugs, alcohol? I mean, there's so many lineages that we see. And it's so
right,
powerful because, and I bring this up because, again, we can skate through our lives saying, well, I had that perfect family. And actually, I'm a little bit more apprehensive when someone says they had a great family than I am when someone says, man, my life was horrible.
right, sure.
Because the scripture's clear that in this world we will have trouble.
Amen. And there's not a single family that doesn't have trouble, that doesn't have loss, that doesn't have, challenges. And that comes from anything from kids wandering, looking at the world, wanting to seek out their own, almost, kind of like the prodigal son story, growing up with grandparents. So I didn't see them much. They lived in Idaho. And so I saw them, if I was lucky, once or twice a year. And I really liked them. I wanted to get to know them, but for some reason I don't know if my dad was a little estranged from his dad. And so, you know what I mean? It's like, well, we didn't visit that much or get to Idaho much. We lived in Colorado. We drove, one time we took the train. But I'll never forget when I was 16, we were coming back from a family trip in the station wagon, and here we had our cooler in the back, and my brother and I are in the back because you could do that back then. And what the heck were seatbelts, right? Of course, the top speed was 55, and that was pushing it. And I'll never forget, we get a call, and speaking of loss, they had moved my grandma. My grandpa had already passed away from cancer, and 6 months later, she was trying to get her life. My grandma tried to get her life. Take two, let's go, new kind of start. And we get a call that they've moved her bed, a hospice bed, into her home. We're on our way back. We stopped there at the farm, and I go in, and there it was just so surreal. There's my grandmother, just little white wisps of hair. And I go up, and she looks up, and I can just hear a little voice. She goes, "Oh, Craig," and just kind of touched her hand. And my dad was there recording her voice, and the day went on. I go to bed at 2 a.m. There's a knock on the door of the room I was staying in. It was my mom. I was disoriented. I didn't know where I was. I was 16 years old. I was, I didn't know what house I was in, things were. And my mom just said, your grandma's passed away. Mm. And I remember getting up at 16 again. I'm supposed to be Superman. I'm invulnerable, 16, nothing can hurt me, and I walked out there, and I see her, I see the hearse, they were putting her, and I go back to bed. But what woke me up, and I'll tell you, this is why this is so poignant. What woke me up that morning was this inhumane sound, a sound I'd never heard, It sounded like a wounded animal and so loud. And I get up and I'm looking like they had a farm. There were cows and, all kinds of animals. I go out and I look through the screen door, true screen door, the back porch, and I see my dad, and he's the one making the sound.
He's weeping.
It was and howling and gnashing of teeth, and it was a sound that was just so profoundly sad, and he just loved his mom. And that made a real impression on me about life after death, loss. Yeah, that
Well,
was powerful.
and it sounds to me, I could be wrong. It sounds to me that when you're grieving that strongly, not only is it that loss for the love, but it's loss for the years not had. Like if you said that they only saw their parents once or twice a year, and that there was estrangement, it's that real grief that you go through your heart that says, why did I wait this long to come back? What was so important of disconnection to keep me so estranged for so many years that I lost those years, and now they're gone forever. And you can't get them back.
Can't get them back. And they were my grandparents. And it was at that moment I was like, why in the world did my parents, bring me here? Or why didn't I have the wherewithal, the awareness to say, Mom and Dad, let's go visit our grandparents. Let's go visit your parents. Because my mom's mom died of alcoholism when she was 14. And her dad died when my youngest brother was born, also of alcohol-related issues. She grew up in a very different circumstance and was just bound and determined to try to give me a different circumstance to what she grew up with. So I never knew them, ever. I never knew my mom's parents. But I sure got along and wanted to be on that farm and especially be with my grandma. She was so good to me. She made the best potato soup there in Idaho.
Well, you just brought up a very poignant point. And so again, connecting the dots of story, Craig, when you brought up the generational curses, sin, whatever you want to call it, wounds of alcoholism with your mother's parents, and then she married that first husband, and I'm guessing he may too have been an alcoholic, because usually when you've got parents, then sometimes you end up marrying your parents. So they say you marry your parents. And so, your mother's first husband, if he was alcoholic, see, that's that generational sin. And so she broke that curse when then she had you, and then she did not, if your mother then chose not to become an alcoholic. So by the time it got to the generation of you never saw that. And so that's why it's so important, audience, to connect the dots of story, because when we can see the story generational, we can see at what point do we need to break this generational curse. What point do we say, hey, alcoholism was with grandparents, then they went to my mother's first husband, then it was broken before us, and then the chain's broken before it gets to your children and your children's children. But story is so important, and that's why I love Jesus so much, that Jesus didn't, Craig, just go up in the mountainside and start reading the Bible. I'm going to talk to you now about thou shalt not this. He didn't. He got alongside of that woman at the well, and he knew her story and said, with this living water, you won't thirst anymore. He came alongside of people, and he shared stories. He shared accounts. He shared parables so lives could be transformed. So I think it's so imperative that we pause sometimes and take the time to tell our story. And I say, tell the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it will heal not only ourselves, but our children's children and those that we meet throughout life. So with that, we're coming to kind of towards the end here of, we got a little bit, about 10 minutes left. Are there any other stories that you could see in your family that impacted the family itself? Even in your marriage with your wife, with her generations, because again, what was, with her generation, it comes into your children and your children's children.
Yeah, I would say, one thing that really made an impact just growing up is my dad was in a lot of pain. He had back surgeries early on when I was a young guy. And so my dad, I remember throwing the ball once with him in the front yard. And I remember throwing the Frisbee with him once in the front yard. And that's the only time I had really any interaction with my dad. He was mostly just on his bed watching TV. Ended up being disabled when I was 16. He could still get around, but his back, chronic pain. His whole life was just pain. And that, I understood that he was in pain at some level and didn't fault him for that. I mean, heck, it's life, right? But I also really wished I could have hung out with my dad more, done more with my dad. We ended up sitting on the bed. It's probably where I learned a thirst for knowledge. Was he had a huge library because he read a lot. And we sat on the bed often and just watched National Geographic shows. And but I decided, I was like, man, when I have my own kids, and luckily I was blessed with some miracle babies. That's a story probably for another time. But I'll tell you, I just knew I wanted to be with them more. And I mean, from everywhere from saying I love you, the words that I didn't hear a lot, because that was part of, again, that I knew I was loved. The words weren't spoken, because I don't think they were spoken to my dad by his dad, generationally, kind of this old school kind of thought. But it doesn't even have to be old school. It can be now school, right? With over, 41% of children being born to single parent families in this country. But I'll tell you, I just made a conscious decision that I was going to say I love you to my kids every day. And they were going to also know from just a hug, a pat on the back, some type of human touch that I think is so critical just with humans in general, just with humanity. I just think everybody needs to be touched in some way, hugged, loved, and feel that, and then told as well. And so that was a very conscientious decision my wife and I made to do that.
Now, was your father able to work then? And if not, how was your family supported?
Yeah, he did. But then ultimately he was on disability, but then he was involved in the stock market a lot. And so was able to make a living through the stock market. He did some classes at home. So he was able to bring in income in different ways than going to a traditional 9 to 5.
And then did your mom work outside of the home?
Yeah, she did too. So she worked full time too. So I was one of those latchkey kids running the house all summer long after school. And every day after school, I remember playing the piano, and my mom would call from work, and I would have my brother go answer it, and I would be in the background playing the piano keys, acting like I was practicing. But I wasn't really But I really wasn't.
So tell us about the miracle babies. I'm dying to know about your little miracle babies.
Well, I'll keep it brief. Got married, you have these grand plans, and then sometimes life has a different path. And my wife was told that she wasn't going to have children for various reasons. We're like, that didn't even register that could even be a possibility for my life, that I wasn't going to be able to have children. And 5 years later, after lots of prayer, we were just getting to the point where we were going to adopt and really look at that, right? We had looked at other options and things. And my wife got pregnant with twins. 5 years later, how? I don't know.
God, it was, you surrendered. Surrender.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the twins died very young. But her sister lived, and she's my oldest, and now has 2 kids of her own. and Mary lives about a half hour away. Then my next daughter came 3 years later, and then my son came 3 years after that. And
Wow.
and it's every one of them are a miracle, and we can't believe it. We thank God for our kids, pray for them every day, and their health and well-being. I've got my son actually serving a church service mission, sharing the gospel, sharing the messages and parables of Jesus Christ for 2 years of his life is what he's committed, and he's got a little under a year left. He's in the state of Washington.
That's
just
amazing.
talking to anybody who wants to hear about Jesus. So it's very exciting.
So you have a new career path that you just took on. If you'd like to share a little bit about your career that you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm involved with a company called Holy Hydrogen, offering a technology called the Lord's Hydrofix that is something absolutely stellar that provides medical grade hydrogen that supports, cellular health, energy production, cognitive health, weight management support, and it's all in one unit. There's one unit, and usually $5,000 and $10,000 to do both hydrogen infused water and hydrogen gas. But this one machine, which has just the highest standards of engineering and minds that came together to create this, does both the hydrogen infused water that you can just literally pour and creates 1.5 liters every 30 minutes that you can just drink it quickly, or you can put it in these really cool tech bags that filled with water that don't leach and keep the hydrogen there so it doesn't dissipate, can keep it up for a week. But this thing fully saturates the water, and it's a world that I am learning about, and how this creates structured hydrogen. We believe hydrogen is the most miraculous molecule in the universe, right? The stars are made up of hydrogen. We're made up of hydrogen. H2O, water, is life, and hydrogen, it's really interesting when you separate hydrogen and oxygen, the hydrogen floats and the oxygen sinks. Hydrogen is really known as the life molecule, and people are having stellar results drinking hydrogen infused water and inhaling hydrogen gas. Everything from diabetes support, shrinkage of tumors, getting out of wheelchairs, and it is absolutely miraculous.
Wow!
And this hydrogen can penetrate everything. It will go all the way to the marrow of the bones. It cuts to the quick, so to speak.
Well, and I've heard it does wonders for people who've been diagnosed with cancer or lupus.
Yeah, Alzheimer's, dementia. People are just drinking, and you can't overdose on hydrogen. What the body doesn't use at saturation, it just exhales through the lungs. And this machine is out there, holyhydrogen.com, and it provides the cleanest hydrogen, the most stable hydrogen, fully saturated at 1.6 parts per million. It doesn't change the pH level. The water is not directly electrolyzed. It because of the way they've designed this, it just gives your body this super antioxidant element for your body.
What I'd love to do just for a moment, because we still have a little bit of time, I'd like to play a commercial from Holy Hydrogen.
Sure.
And in the commercial, you'll see a promo code called Braveheart. And Holy Hydrogen's been so kind to offer our listening audience $100 off this amazing machine. And they've also now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, allowed payment plans as well. They have a payment plan also. So this is an amazing time right now, folks, to get this machine for your loved one for Christmas. We're a few days away from Christmas. And what would it be like to give someone the gift of life, healing, and wellness? So let's listen to this commercial and we'll come right back.
Hydrogen is used by health professionals as a powerful antioxidant and the #1 tool to fight inflammation. Studies show therapeutic potential in cancer, diabetes, digestive, and heart issues, and essentially every organ and system in the body. This is not medical advice, because I'm not your doctor, but if you have any health concerns, I strongly recommend that you learn more about hydrogen. Get educated at holyhydrogen.com and order the best hydrogen generator known to man. Use code BRAVEHEART for $100 off your order. Because hydrogen is the smallest molecule in existence, it can pass through the cell membrane and even the blood-brain barrier to clear out inflammation and free radical damage where other antioxidants just can't get to. Visit holyhydrogen.com to see the latest technology that elevates your immune system and fights inflammation. Search their research library to see if hydrogen has a track record for helping a health concern you're dealing with. Make sure to use code BRAVEHEART for $100 off your order. Remember, holyhydrogen.com.
So as you can see from that commercial, the Holy Hydrogen product is phenomenal for wellness. And again, with this offering, you can't go wrong getting the $100 off, and they do have a payment plan. And it is an amazing company that Craig just got invited in. Your position with them, Craig, is what with Holy Hydrogen?
Yeah, essentially the general manager.
The assistant general manager?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And he does a lot of the marketing, and it's just amazing. So we are so grateful that you came on. I'd like to just flash before we close to your bio. So this is Craig's bio. It's got the website on here, holyhydrogen.com, and more about who Craig is as a businessman. And so that's how you can reach out to him as well and connect with Craig. So I just wanted to spend time right now just thanking you so much, Craig, for being vulnerable. I know I go a little deep and sometimes dig in, but I think that you did a phenomenal job letting people know a little bit more about you. And your mother and father now, when did you lose them? It sounds like they're gone now.
No, they're both in their early 80s. They're both awesome. 81, and we're excited to get them both drinking hydrogen water and inhaling hydrogen gas. They're both really starting to show some signs of age, and let's keep them around as long as we can.
And are they in Utah as well?
Yeah, they're in southern Utah. Yep, down by St. George.
So close enough that you can see each other.
Yeah, it's about a 4-hour drive,
Awesome. Well, we just want to thank everyone for joining the Connection Show today, and we wish you a very Merry Christmas or a Happy Hanukkah or just love, no matter what it is you believe or celebrate this holiday season. So thanks so much, Craig, and have a wonderful night.
Jill, thanks a lot. Appreciate being on. Everyone, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Well, it was so good to get to know Craig, wasn't it? He's such an amazing man. And we do hope that you'll go on to Holy Hydrogen's website today and order that amazing machine of hydrogen health. And you receive $100 off by utilizing the promo code BRAVEHEART. One of the areas that how I met Holy Hydrogen was when I attended and was traveling with the ReAwaken America tour with General Flynn and Clay Clark. The next event is going to be in January in the suburbs of Nashville, Tennessee. So I'd love to let you know about that. It's going to be in Mount Juliet at the Global Vision Bible Church, and there are only about 40 tickets remaining as we speak. So go online today to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com. Put in your name. You'll have a form. Put in your name and call that phone, text that phone number and ask someone to call you back. If they don't call you back, keep texting them over and over and someone will. When they call you back, make sure you mention the code BRAVEHEART, to get a 10% discount. So anyway, so the ReAwaken tour is amazing. So please sign up now so that you can do the event in Nashville if you're in that area. And thanks again. We have so many amazing guests that are on our show. So stay tuned for our guests this week that we'll be having. And thanks again for joining the Connection Show. Have a wonderful day. Bye now. Thank you for joining us on the Connection Show. We'd appreciate your support. Please go to either our Patreon or our PayPal page to support our show. We love our podcast guests and social media subscribers, so you don't miss any of our shows. Go to our website today at braveheartworkshops.com and our Contact Us page. Click on all our social media links and subscribe to and like all our pages. Our affiliate partners, thank you for your support. Go to our affiliate partners page on our website and order from them today. They're offering discounts when you mention Braveheart. Click on their website links to order from them today.